Hello, students. How are you all? So, this is Raheema again here with the last video of nutrition in plants, where we are going to explore about the mineral nutrition and nitrogen cycle. I will just recall a little bit of what we did in the last two videos. We started off with the photosynthesis, the basics of the photosynthesis process, where we discussed about the anatomy of leaf and the structure of the chloroplast, which are the uh, two most important things which help in the photosynthesis process. In the second video, we continued with the photosynthesis process. Basically, we focused on the process of the photosynthesis, how it is taking place, where it is taking place, and then we continued with the basics of cell. So, in the last video here, let's not wait and start with the mineral nutrition. For that, I'm going to share a screen with you all. So, the topics that we are going to cover include mineral nutrition and nitrogen cycle. So, let's begin with the mineral nutrition. What do you understand when you read this mineral nutrition? Read this phrase. Mineral nutrition involves the absorption of specific mineral ions in the form of specific minerals, I mean, in the form of ions. Okay, and their transport within the plants and their inclusion in the metabolism. After they are absorbed by the plants, they are used up by the plants during photosynthesis process, during respiration process, and other metabolic reactions. So this absorption of minerals in the form of ions is very important because the plants can only use up these minerals in the form of ions, not in any other form. So, this is of paramount importance. They have to absorb the minerals in the form of ions, where water plays an important role. So all these ions, they when they get mixed with water, that means in solution form, they convert into ionic forms, and thus helps the plants to absorb them and use them up in metabolic reactions. So, unicellular organisms and the aquatic plants, they absorb ions. They absorb ions over the entire surface. Okay, but if we talk about the higher terrestrial plants, the major type of plants which are inhabiting the earth right now, okay, they absorb the ions on the surface cells of the roots. Okay, roots are the major absorbing organs in the terrestrial plants. They are absorbing water through the soil. So they absorb water. Along with water, they absorb the ions which are mixed in water through the roots. So these roots have unicellular root hairs through which the absorption takes place. Root hairs, suppose this is the root. And the root hairs, you can observe by uprooting a plant, they come out like tiny little hair like structures, obviously, and they basically numerous they are basically numerous on the surface of the root, which helps in further increasing the surface area for absorption of water. So this is the importance of the root hairs on the roots. The mineral nutrition that is taking place, first of all, the minerals are getting dissolved in water. This is the first thing. When they get dissolved in water, some ions, they have higher concentration they have the high concentration in soil. Some ions have low concentration in soil. So it all depends upon the concentration, how the absorption of these ions can take place. So for the absorption of water, and the ions along with it, the ions, there are two processes that can help in explaining the absorption of the minerals. The first process is osmosis, and the second process is active transport. So osmosis is the process which helps in it is the process of transport of water molecules from the higher concentration to lower concentration. This is a very good process for the transport of ions also, which can easily get dissolved in water, and their concentration is higher in the soil as compared to the roots. So suppose this is a root and these are soil particles. Suppose there is an ion, its concentration is higher outside, that means in the soil, and lower inside. So automatically it will move along the concentration gradient. That means from it will move from higher concentration, its higher concentration to lower concentration. So osmosis is one such process which helps in absorption of ions, and it also checks the movement of ions after the concentration of the ions become equal on both the sides, that means outside the root and inside the root, then the osmosis process will stop and further absorption of water or either the ions will stop. So this is one such process. Active transport on the other hand, it works against the concentration gradient. So active transport is the one which where the movement of the ions takes place from lower concentration to higher concentration with the help of ATP, by using energy in the form of ATP. Because the movement is taking place from lower concentration to higher concentration, energy is required because it is not going along the concentration gradient, it is going against the concentration gradient. So ATP is used up to draw the movement of ions. Active transport is helpful in transportation of ions whose concentration is less in the soil than in the roots. So, without mineral nutrition or transport of ions, uh, the plants they cannot even, uh, you know, work out their normal metabolic reactions. They will not be able to live. Mineral nutrition, the absorption of the minerals, the use of the minerals helps the plants to live. If there is deficiency of even single mineral ion, there can be a lot of symptoms. The deficiency symptoms can be observed in the plant, due to which the deficiency diseases can occur in the plant. So in this picture, basically you can see many ions, like nitrogen is there, potassium is there, iron, magnesium, zinc, manganese, calcium, phosphorus, etc., etc. So there is one more thing among the minerals. There are two types of minerals. There are some minerals which are required in higher amounts by the plants. They are known as macronutrients. And there are some minerals which are required by the plant in less amount. They are known as micronutrient. So most of the students they think that the naming is done on the basis of their size, which is not true. It is not done on the basis of its size. It is done on the basis of its requirement. Macronutrients are required in large amounts by the plant. Micronutrients, on the other hand, they are required in less amounts by the plant. So among the macronutrients, nitrogen is there, potassium is there, phosphorus is there. Among the micronutrients, copper is there, zinc is there, manganese is there, etc. Let's move on with nitrogen cycle. Nitrogen is basically the most important element required by the plant. Without nitrogen, you should know, you must know that synthesis of proteins is not possible. Along with the carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, which is present in the proteins, nitrogen is also important. So, if nitrogen is not metabolized by the plants, proteins won't be synthesized, and basically the plant won't be able to grow. So, that is just a simple fact. So nitrogen cycle, basically, why we are discussing nitrogen cycle, what is the use of nitrogen cycle, why we are focusing on this topic, because nitrogen, first of all, it is the most important element in the atmosphere, not only in the atmosphere but also in the body of the organisms. And by when I say organisms, it means everything: bacteria, and plants, animals. Okay, any kind of organism you pick up, nitrogen will be present in them. Without nitrogen, their life won't be possible. So, nitrogen cycle, because nitrogen is very important to the life, to the sustenance of life, their cycling, its cycling in the environment becomes important. So, how it is getting used up by the organisms, and from the organisms, how it is being returned to the environment, can be explained with the help of nitrogen cycle. So, it is a biogeochemical cycle. Among the biogeochemical cycles, uh, nitrogen cycle is one of the most important. So, here nitrogen is converted into multiple chemical forms as it circulates among the atmosphere, terrestrial, and marine ecosystems. So, this we have to remember, that it is not only going on, it is not only being cycled in the terrestrial or marine ecosystem, it is also being cycled in the atmosphere. Atmosphere is also a part of this process. So, nitrogen, uh, when we talk about nitrogen, okay, the percentage of this element element is 78% in the air, right? So 78% of the air contains nitrogen. Okay. Nitrogen cycle, you can see here as in the picture. Uh, we are going to start with the nitrogen cycle in the nitrogen, I mean, presence of nitrogen in the atmosphere. So, nitrogen is present in the atmosphere in the form of, in molecular form, that is N2. Okay. This form of nitrogen, it is not useful to the plants. Plants cannot use the nitrogen, the molecular form of nitrogen, from the atmosphere directly. It has to be converted into some simple absorbable form, okay, to be used up by the plants, and that process is known as nitrogen fixation. So nitrogen that is there in the atmosphere, it is fixed in into the roots of some plants, like the leguminous plants. Like you can see here, nitrogen fixing bacteria is there in the soil, which helps in fixing the nitrogen in the root nodules of the leguminous plants. So leguminous plants are the plants like pulses, beans, peas, and chickpea. These are some of the examples of the leguminous plants. Okay, the bacteria that is involved in doing that, I'm going to give an example of that. And this bacteria, rhizobium, is its name. It is a symbiotic bacteria. That means the plant is providing shelter to the bacteria, and bacteria in turn is fixing nitrogen for the plant. So it is a symbiotic relationship. As you can remember, I discussed symbiosis in the first video of this topic. So let's move on. When the nitrogen is fixed in the root nodules of the legumes, okay, it is converted into ammonium ion, NH4, by the plants. Okay, from ammonium ion by the nitrifying bacteria, it is converted into nitrates, NO3 minus ions, and NO3 minus ions are now can be used up by the plants. Assimilation by the plants is done. The plants uh, use nitrates to synthesize proteins. Okay, when these plants die, the plants, which have synthesized the proteins, they are also taken up by the animals. They are also used up by the animals, by all the heterotrophs, you can say. Okay, when these plants and animals they die, they become the detritus. Okay, this detritus is the dead and the decaying matter after the death of a plant or an animal. Okay, which is decomposed by the detritivores of the soil, which are bacteria and fungi. And the decomposition process also adds to the ammonium reservoir of the soil. Okay, as more and more ammonium will be produced by the decomposition process, also this ammonium can be converted into nitrates, and the cycle will again begin. These nitrates will be used up by the plants. Plants will synthesize proteins, they will be taken up by the animals, again they will die, and the cycle will continue. You can also see one process, that is denitrification. Denitrifying bacteria, they convert the nitrates, okay, again into the molecular form of nitrogen and add it to the atmosphere. Okay, and this cycle continues. The nitrogen that was absorbed from the atmosphere, it is sent back to the atmosphere. Okay, this is a very important process, because we are, if there is a balance that has to be maintained, the balance is all. Whatever you do, you are, when you're writing an exam, or when you are in a restaurant, you're enjoying some food, there is always balance. You're eating in balance. Okay, the examination, you're writing in every answer is balanced, okay, according to the marks you're writing. Similarly, nature also has ways to keep the balance in check. Okay, and this balance is advantageous to us. So let's see. We will now focus in this slide, in this picture. I want you to focus more on the nitrogen fixation process here. Okay, the process is the same. Nitrogen fixation that I told you. Bacteria which is present in the plant roots, the leguminous bacteria, okay, and the soil bacteria, they convert the atmospheric nitrogen into ammonium ion. The ammonium ion, they are converted into nitrites, okay, and nitrites are converted into nitrates. I want you to focus on these three steps. So ammonium ion basically is converted into NO2 minus, and NO2 minus is converted into NO3 minus ions. Ammonium ions are converted into nitrites by nitrosomonas. This is the name of the bacteria. Nitrites are converted into nitrates by another bacteria, which is nitrobacter. So these are the two bacteria I want you to remember. Ammonium ion are converted into nitrites by nitrosomonas, and nitrites are converted into nitrates by nitrobacter. And this is the important process of nitrogen fixation in the plants. The plants, they use up this form of nitrogen, these two forms of nitrogen for synthesizing proteins. Okay, so let's move on with the questions. During the first question is, during photosynthesis, plants take oxygen and release carbon dioxide, take carbon dioxide and release oxygen, take carbon dioxide but do not release oxygen, and take oxygen but do not release carbon dioxide. So the correct answer is B, which is pretty obvious. The raw material that is taken up by the plants is carbon dioxide, which is fixed in the form of glucose, and oxygen gas is released. The second question is again about photosynthesis. During photosynthesis, solar energy is converted into chemical energy. Solar energy is converted into mechanical energy. Chemical energy is converted into mechanical energy, or bioenergy is converted into chemical energy. So the first option is the correct option. The chemical energy which is synthesized is glucose. Glucose. Raw materials for the photosynthesis are carbon dioxide, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, water, oxygen, and water. So the correct answer among all the options, A is the correct answer, which includes carbon dioxide. This is the most important raw material for the process of photosynthesis. The next question is, the end products of photosynthesis are carbohydrates and oxygen, carbohydrates or hydrogen, carbohydrates and water vapor, carbohydrates, oxygen, and water vapor. As you know, glucose, which is a carbohydrate only, glucose and oxygen is produced. So, correct option is A. Uh, there are questions which are related to nitrogen fixation also. So most of the students, they get confused between the nitrites and the nitrates. So you need to remember, like ammonium, when ammonium are converted into NO2 minus ions, it is converted by nitrosomonas. And when NO2 minus ions are converted into NO3 minus ions, it is the process is done by nitrobacter. So this is a question, that can be formed, that can be important for Olympiads or any other entrances that you might be interested in taking up at this stage. So, with this, we have finished the topic. And students, I really hope that you enjoyed the videos, and most of all, I really hope that you understand everything. And even after that, if you have any questions, you can post them on our forum, and I will be very happy to answer your questions. So stay tuned for my next video. I'll see you soon. Thank you.